So it's 1995, early in the year, middle of the year. What are you doing? Well, me and my buddies, we're seniors in high school here, Estill County High School. We were leading up to going on our senior trip. We were all excited, you know, couldn't wait. And one of the worst things I've ever had to deal with in my life happened. One of my best friends, Daryl Clinton Barnes, we lost him just a day or so before the senior trip. And this is where it starts. We were best friends. This is where we went to school. And that was the last time he stepped into this school. So young, full of life, loved the deer hunt, loved to go wheeling. So this is going to be a 4 or 5 place stop to tell this story. I've put it off for a very long time because I want to be able to give it the justice it deserved. So we're going to tell the story as to how it happened on the day that it happened. I want to start by apologizing. There's probably going to be some shakiness in this video. It's probably not going to be perfect. This is a very emotional story for me. It's something I've wanted to do for a long time, but it's also something that I just didn't know if I was ready to do. But we're going to pick up here at this building. It's now a Dollar General. It's been a Dollar General for about 1.5 years now. But prior to that, it was Priceless Foods. Daryl came to work and had a normal day at work. And if you look, there's a loading dock right there. And, he was pretty much a stalker. And so he was supposed to get off and a big bunch of us. And we were camping out in the country at a farm that me and my dad had leased. Daryl was supposed to get off work and meet us there that night. We had a Chevette and a old Cavalier. And one of them we used to be Roscoe Pico train, and one of them we used as the General Lee. And we had this old hay field. Wasn't much in the way of making good hay, but it was fun as all get out just to go out and spin around and everything. But so anyway, Daryl was supposed to get off here, run to town, pick up some pizza rolls at Fast Lane and a 6-pack of L8, which is a soft drink. It's a local soft drink. Here it is. This is a throwaway bottle, but anyway. And was supposed to meet us out at the farm. We were going to camp. This was our last camping trip, and then we were going to get up and go on the senior trip. So Daryl had a girlfriend, and I want to apologize ahead of time. This got very nasty. Anybody that knew Daryl, all of us that was supposed to be camping with him that night, we got drug into the middle of it. And so there's certain names. I don't know about statute of limitations or anything, but given as to who these people are, given as to how they live their life, that kind of thing, where they are in the social pecking order and everything, I'm gonna have to refer to some people as like Officer A, Officer B, that kind of thing. I do apologize for that, but it's a small town and it got very nasty. And at our final location, I'll tell the story better. But Daryl left here. His girlfriend had called. I feel comfortable naming her. Her name was Carrie. So at the time, kids still cruised and everything, and he had to run and get our L8, and Carrie had said that he was going to get us some pizza rolls and stuff. So he left here, went to River Drive, and so that's where we're going to pick the story up at. So we are now at the parking lot of Mead's Do-It Center. In the early 80s, this place burnt down as Mead's Do-It Center. Maybe the mid 80s. But anyway, it came back, set idle. You know, there was nothing here. But kids would park in this parking lot through the week, you know, after school. We'd cruise. This was one of the parking areas where we'd all meet up, talk, you know, that kind of thing. Now, in 1995, it had just came back as a grocery store. And this is where Daryl met his girlfriend Carrie at. He told her he loved her. He gave her a kiss. And that was the last time he, you know, ever saw her. And she was the last one to ever talk to him, to speak a word to him or whatever. And this here, that pole location hasn't changed. And about 4 spots from the end there is where Daryl was parked that evening. He spent approximately 15 minutes here talking to Denny, talking to Carrie, and Jason, another Jason. And then he left to come to where we were camping out at. And there's times I hate pulling this parking lot even today. But we're now going to go to where everything happened. Well, we got to make one more stop along the way to explain something. And then we're going to go, we've got about 3 more stops on this story. And I encourage and beg you all to watch this to the end, because you're really going to be floored. So, we have 2 stops after this one. If you look real close, you can tell that's a bridge. Now, in 1995, that bridge signified, and by the way, you can look and tell the dollar store right there. That's the same one that Daryl did work at. But that bridge was the end of city, whatever you call it, engagement. If they were going to pull anybody over as city police, they had to be engaged before they got to that bridge. There's no exceptions, there's no arguing. That's how it was on paper, and I know that for an absolute fact, which I will explain later in the story. Daryl came across that bridge. He was not being followed. He was not doing anything wrong. And they were not engaged. So I've decided it would be far more compelling and tell the story better if you rode along with me to our next location. Now, we've just left the bridge where I showed you that he, you know, if he was doing anything wrong, they would have had to engage him. And so at this point, you know, nothing's changed or anything. So Daryl's coming down through here and just, you know, just minding his own business. Now, over here to the left at this red light, there's a bypass. I don't know why Irvin needs a bypass. I don't know why, but, you know, I assume somebody's pockets got lined to get it built or whatever. But anyway, so we're going to say Officer B and C was parked right here. Well, they pull in behind Daryl. Again, you know, there's no lights, there's nothing, they're city cops. The only reason they were even in this area was because Officer C dated a individual that lived out this road right here. Should be showing up right there. Alright. Sorry, it's raining. Doing the best I can here. So anyway, it was said that that guy had an issue with Daryl, and this was a new officer on the city force who was being trained by Officer B. Now, when people tell these stories and everything, people always assume that there is a margin of bias. They assume blanks get filled in. They assume people put their own opinion or whatever. This is the part of the story where it's going to become a little bit clear. So, Officer C was actually dating the sister to the young lady that was my high school sweetheart. Now, her dad, who we are going to refer to as Officer A, obviously I was prudent to quite a bit of information that your average ordinary citizen would not and could not get their hands on. Now, we are in the stretch of road referred to as AC Barn Straight Stretch. Now, that road to the right back there that I pointed out that the girl lived on, that curves around and meets up with the road that Daryl actually lives on. So, just to kind of, tell you a little bit about where we're at, that kind of thing. Now, there's a concrete bridge up here. Now, Daryl had 35s on a Ford Bronco, the square body. And, it's possible the speedometer was off a mile or two. And it's possible. There's a lot of things that's possible. But city cops had no jurisdiction in this area, and all they had was a couple of mile an hour over the speed limit, even if that was the truth. And that leads us to our next to final stop here. Maybe I can get pulled over here without getting run over, and we'll pick up in a second. So as we came around that curve there, they just recently put a turn lane in there, if you can make it out. Kind of hard to see, but you can see how wide the road is. So, skid marks came around, if you will, and on this hill here, the tire tracks went up on the hill. So the official story was that they never touched Daryl. Now, they didn't even engage with him. And again, this is Irvin Police Department. We're a good 2.5, 3 miles outside of city limits. Now, they said they didn't touch him. They said they did not pit maneuver him. They said they didn't do anything. My dad was on his way home. Had an 86 Olds Calais, that god-awful, hideous, brownish color red. He had been in a bad accident. Arthur's Body Shop had his car sitting in there, and lo and behold, they put Daryl's Bronco right beside my dad's car. If you look where that cross is, Daryl came from that bank there, across the road here. He jumped where that cross is into the field, down there. It's hard. That's a little better. Seems like it does it better justice. But let me find, there's the cross. And landed in that field. It broke many bones, a lot of internal bleeding, that kind of thing, you know. That night, we would never see Daryl alive again. And his parents offered up his organs. I don't remember exactly which ones or whatever. I know somebody ended up with his eyes. That one I do remember. But so now we're gonna make one last stop and put the whole story together. So this is where we're gonna finish the story. Obviously, this is Daryl's grave. We are literally a quarter mile away from the high school. It's over this shoulder here. A mile that way is where Daryl died. So, like I said, the story is weird. And it gets very, very confusing. So, it's hard to even put it to words. So, Daryl dies. And the police department, they say that they never touched him. They say they never spun him out. And the most that they've got is saying that he was going about 2 miles an hour over the speed limit. Now, they're out of jurisdiction. Officer B, who had a reputation of being a little shady, was training Officer C. Again, Officer C was dating the sister to the girl that I dated. Well, so the girl I dated and her sister, their dad, was an officer. He was not a city officer. He was not a county officer. But he was a police officer. And I'll let you ponder on that. But, so, again, as I was saying, my dad had had an accident. His car was set at Arthur's Towing up on River Drive, just a little farther down from where I showed you a lot of people parked on the cruise route. About a half mile on down through there, more on the Ravenna side of Irvin. So, myself and Jason, that's a Jason that was in on the camping, not the Jason that he saw up on River Drive when he stopped for a minute. But anyway, we went up there, cleaned Dad's car out, and they had tarped Daryl's Bronco. On the passenger side, where the fender comes down behind the rear wheel, there's these huge, like, scrape marks. I mean, you know, like, it's not a scrub mark, it's a scrape mark. And, you know, you can tell it's like metal. I mean, you know, it's grooves. It's not like a scuff, like it went over against a tree or anything like that. I mean, it's obvious as to what it is. And if that ain't enough, I mean, it's pretty safe to say that the white paint is another pretty good giveaway. And the car that they were in that night, the officers disappeared without a sight. Nobody would say where the car was. Nobody would comment. It later come out that for some strange reason, oddly enough, about 2 miles down the road from where Daryl lived, there was a little body shop, kind of a fly-by-night kind of thing, literally almost in the woods. And it was seen coming out of there about 3 o'clock in the morning, about a month and a half later. Another little funny tidbit to that, there was a barn off to the side there, and while nobody had saw it sitting there, everybody just kind of assumes it was probably in that barn. Now that is conjecture there, but it is what it is. But so this is where the story gets really weird. So Daryl's mom, who I'm not gonna share her name because she's still walking along this earth with us today, and I don't want her having any more heartaches or headaches or anything than the lady's already had to deal with in her life. But she we would see her. She cut most of our hair and stuff in school, and weird stuff started happening. We started being contacted. Anybody that was supposed to be with Daryl that night, anybody that saw Daryl that night, we all started being contacted. And I was contacted at work. At the time I worked at Sears as a mechanic. My main job was tires, but I did batteries when the battery guys wasn't there or they got busy, and did some mufflers and shocks. And this investigator gets a hold of me, said he wants to talk to me, says that he is on behalf of the Barnes family. Well, I didn't think anything about it. This was a year and a half or so later. And so I agreed. So we scheduled it. He met me at Mom's house. Has all this recording equipment, that kind of thing. Well, he shows up, interviews me. And I kind of pick up in a hurry that he's leading the interview. And anything that I told him that would seem to be against the police department, it seemed like he would try to lead me away from it, to the point that he was almost getting pissed off. So I needed a haircut. So I called Daryl's mom. And I'm like, hey, I need to schedule a haircut. And while we're at it, I need to talk to you. So she got me in the next weekend. And I say, hey, your investigator came by. But he was acting real weird. It was almost like it was for the other side. And she said, Jeff, hon, I don't have an investigator. Well, at this point, I'm stunned, And so I talked to some other people. Well, they had all had the same thing happen. And so this is where I got to watch what I say, I suppose. Because when you accuse people of something, well, I suppose it just ain't good. But somebody, one of the two parties involved, and the first party, Daryl's parents, didn't hire any investigators or anything. So, I don't know. Um, I know I naturally assume where it came from. Well, the other people I talked to, Jason, Dwayne, um, you know, a couple other guys, they all had the same story. They all said that, you know, they would set them up to talk to them, that, like they were on behalf of Daryl's family, trying to find out everything they could. But then when they'd talk to them, that, you know, it just seemed like they, uh, was completely for the other side. And so speed ahead, everything ends. Over the next couple of years, weird stuff happens to all of us. People end up with speeding tickets when they wasn't even in Irvin. They go to renew their driver's license, had a speeding ticket, license suspended or something, and like they'd be a truck driver or something and have logs to prove they wasn't even in the area. Um, so this thing could go on forever. I'm not trying to drag it out or anything, but it was weird. I just wanted to give Daryl a voice to tell his side of it. And, but I don't drive by here. I don't ever think about him. I'm a little choked up right now, and I apologize for that. Like I said in the beginning, this is a story I didn't know if I was ever going to want to do, but it needed to be told. You know, I appreciate you all for watching, for listening, and if you're in your town and weird stuff starts happening, you know, um, get a dash cam. Take notes. Cover your assets. But thank you all for watching. I'm doing my best. I'm an over-the-road truck driver. I don't get a chance to make this kind of story very often. Freight was slow this week, and other than the torrential rain today, it was the perfect day to do it. But thank you all for watching. I appreciate it. Please like and subscribe, and I'm going to try to get you a lot more content.